we're just HVAC dudes trying to give back to the community, so it's no big deal. As you can see, I forgot to hit the record button. Okay, so Tony Mormino, HVAC TV, this is take 2 because we were about 15 minutes into the podcast. We had some really brilliant things that we said, but I forgot to hit the record button. So you're hearing take 2. Let me just make sure I'm recording this now. I see this number here going up and the record on. Okay. All right. Welcome to the show. Tony Mormino again, HVAC TV. I've got a couple great guests here from ABB. If you don't know who ABB is, they're one of the world's leading, or probably the world's leading manufacturer of VFDs. I'll give you guys that since you're on the show, right? Call you the leader. And we're going to talk about Drives 101, when you would use them, and a little bit about the industry, what's happening today. So, Louis and Peter, welcome to the show. Louis, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Tony, thanks a lot. Thanks for having us on today.
Cool. Thanks for being here. And Peter, how are you?
I'm doing really well, Tony. I appreciate the opportunity to come on the show.
All right. And thank you guys again. I apologize for the redo here. But anyway, so Louis, you were telling me before, talk to me a little bit about your position at ABB and how you got into the industry.
Sure. So today I lead the product management team for our HVAC product portfolio with our flagship product, the ACH 580, which is, it's been in the market for, 5 or 6 years now. Prior to that, we had the ACH 550, which was a workhorse for the last 20 years in the industry. With the 580 portfolio, we have everything from your basic wall mount drives with disconnect, drive with a bypass, redundant drives with line reactors, you name it. We can even put together custom solutions. And not only do we have our standard drive offering in the 580, but we have our ultra low harmonic drive for those low harmonic applications that are becoming more and more prominent in the market today. And then as well as our ACH 180, it's our micro drive, and a lot of our OEM partners are using that product.
Excellent. And tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry.
Yeah, so I've sort of been working in motors and drives my entire professional career. I started off, as a technician in a vacuum cleaner manufacturing company. But really where I really grew in understanding, refrigeration process, HVAC, was when I worked as a technical support specialist for a facility, and later became, in facility management and maintenance management of a technical facility. And that's where I really learned and grew a lot in, I replaced my first drive on an air handler on the rooftop unit there, and helped maintain and support, climatic wind tunnels and test cells and things like that. So that's really where I learned and grew in instrumentation, air handling, and process systems. That
sounds very like old school. I started out in a vacuum factory changing motors. It sounds like something like Henry Ford might have said, or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Dating ourselves right here for sure. So anyway, Louis, so tell us something interesting about yourself, about your life.
Sure. Yep. I'll start with my wife and I have been married for 31 years, and we have 7 children. Of those 7 children, 5 of them have grown up and moved out and doing their own thing. I've got 4 grandchildren, and so our family is growing quite fast. So it's been a great experience. I love my grandchildren. It's awesome. I love my regular children too, but my grandchildren.
That's right.
Are
of course,
very special.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
And what about you? I heard you had a farm or something going on over there?
Yep. I have a small hobby farm on 3 acres where we tool around with. I've got about 30 to 40 chickens, and this year I'm growing 4 pigs, and hope to try to get into some other livestock husbandry, as you will. I've done bees in the past,
right?
So it's fun, to kind of reap the harvest of those types of things. And I often actually I share some of that. I shouldn't say I share. I sell some of that stuff with some of my colleagues here at work once in a while too. So
nice,
yeah. Good
stuff. That sounds like fun. My wife's into a lot of that stuff. We have some chickens, and she wants to get goats, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about goats.
Not a big fan. Anyway, okay, enough of that. So thank you, Louis. Peter, tell us what you do at ABB and a little bit about how you got into the business.
All right. Yeah, sure. So I've been with ABB for about 4.5 years, and currently I have the role I'm in. I lead our OEM account management team. So I have a team of 5 key account managers who manage our commercial relationships with mostly HVAC-R customers. So we've got customers on my team that kind of range from your global blue chip HVAC manufacturing companies down to smaller family-owned businesses and kind of everything in between. So it's a pretty diverse group of customers that we have that we support, which is great. So I've been in or selling into the industry for the last 10.5 years. I started in the HVAC industry with Johnson Controls in a global supply chain role. So that's kind of where I also got introduced to VFDs. I managed at the time the VFD supplier portfolio. So I got introduced to a lot of the VFD componentry that goes into drives, along with purchasing and strategically managing fully assembled units and suppliers in that capacity. And then I moved into a role with Train Technologies, and then after Train, I kind of stayed in supply chain, and that's where I joined ABB about 4.5 years ago. But shortly after, I got the opportunity to move into sales. So I pivoted at that point and was spent about 2 years managing one of our global key accounts in the HVAC industry, and then I've been in my current role now managing our team of account managers for about it'll be almost 2 years coming up. So
Nice.
it's been a really cool and I guess kind of diverse ride within the HVAC industry, starting in supply chain, but then pivoting into sales. I've gotten to see a lot of kind of end-to-end processes and how the HVAC industry functions, and how suppliers can best support and drive innovation and add value to HVAC customers' product portfolios. So it's been really great, and there's a lot of kind of complicated topics both in HVAC and with drives, and to be able to have the opportunity to learn more about those things every day has been really fulfilling. So
I bet. That
been a good
sounds like
ride.
a great resume. A lot of experience there for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, tell us something interesting. I hear you got an adventure with your family you're working on.
Yeah, yep. So we're embarking this weekend on our first quest to visit all of the Wisconsin state parks. So we're gonna visit
Nice.
3 of them this weekend, and yeah, it'll be good to kind of start to venture out a little bit more as my kids are getting older. Not being tethered to strollers and diapers and things like that quite as much as it's exciting. So
Good
we're,
times.
yeah,
Good
we're
stuff.
looking forward to it.
Okay. All right. I guess we got to talk about drives at some point. Or our bosses might be upset with us, right? Okay, so we're going to kick it over to Louis, and we've got a list here of some things we're going to talk about, but feel free to jump in when you feel the need. Benefits of VFDs. First of all, for those listening, sometimes we have experienced folks. Sometimes we might have someone in college and engineering school that know what HVAC is all about. So VFD, variable frequency drive, sometimes called a VSD, variable speed drive. We're talking about changing the speed of a motor.
Yeah.
When you don't need a full motor capacity, you change the speed of it, you save a lot of energy, right?
Yep. No, that's great. And I was going to say, ABB really stands for acronyms beyond belief. So when we talk about VFDs and AS and VSDs, and it gets complicated, and maybe there's too much noise there. So we'll try to keep the jargon down to a minimum here. But before we get into the benefits of VFDs, I want to kind of set the stage of why VFDs are important. So today, electric motors consume over 45% of the world's electricity. And when we consider that, and that by 2040, that number of motors will double, it's really important for the world to really continue to find ways to consume less electricity. And when we think about how we're going to do that, drives are one of the key tools to help reduce the energy consumption. So, we talk about the purpose of a VFD is to match the speed to the load requirements. And when we do that, we can significantly reduce the consumption. Sometimes it can be as much as, from 35 to 50%, depending on the application, when you compare it to, say, a constant speed, mechanical restriction of flow. Right. So that's, that is a really eye-opening savings. And then, the payback by adding VFDs to a process that maybe had only a constant speed solution could be 6 months to 2 years. So that usually falls in within the operational savings for some CapEx or OpEx saving requirements.
Yeah, and on that note, a quick reminder for those listening, and I was reminded that this morning because I shared one of your white papers on LinkedIn, which talked about using VFDs on constant speed motors and what a benefit that is. Because I'm always thinking, well, you don't want to do that because it does have a little parasitic loss when you put a VFD on a motor. But if you got a motor at 100% and you're choking it off for some reason because you don't need that full flow of air or, water, then you could dial in exactly what you need and just let it run at constant volume there. And there's a huge savings to that. And the other thing I'll add is, it's more than, if you turn a motor down by half, it's more than half of the energy savings, right? So cubic relationship.
That's correct. Yeah. So if you reduce the speed by 50%, you actually only consume 12.5% of that power.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a really important big deal there. Yeah.
All right. Another benefit. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I say the next benefit is you have sort of what we were just talking about, improved control, which leads to improved comfort and reliability in your process, right? So maintaining flow of your process gives you more consistent temperatures, humidity levels, comfort within an occupied space. Really, that's really HVAC is all about, is just maintaining these core, these core needs for commercial buildings.
Got it.
Yeah. Another benefit would be to reduce mechanical stress, right? You don't have, pipes rattling and wear and tear on belts, and we can use the drive as as almost a soft starter where you're ramping up to speed, right? So we reduce the mechanical wear and tear on the process equipment, which is, that's another long-term cost savings for the customer.
Yeah, I think of like condenser fan motors when they pop on, a lot of residential older ones, some new ones have variable speed fans, but when they pop on and they hit, even for the bigger 50, 100-ton units and cooling towers, when the fan comes on, I mean, there's a lot of stress when it's just a quick ramp up, but the VFD is nice because you can bring it up and you don't have to turn them on and off as much either, which is a huge stress on a motor. Right. It's much better to keep one just humming along where you need it rather than on off all day.
Precisely. Precisely. And, because of that, right, we have lower maintenance costs. It doesn't, things are not breaking unexpectedly, and you're able to just kind of maintain it as normal, and things just sort of keep going, right? So that's another benefit. And then maybe the last one is regulatory compliance. You've spoken a lot lately on the regulatory landscape changing over the last 7 months, right? And, prior to the beginning of 2025, we were on a mad dash to support customers that needed A2L support, that we had to meet DOE regulation specs, and those things maybe have been relaxed a little bit, or the timelines extended and whatever. But, ABB is on the forefront of meeting these regulatory compliances as they come up, and supporting and participating actively in all of these regulatory compliances. So we've got teams of people that are, cross-divisionally as well as within Drive Products to participate in some of these things.
A lot of stuff going on in the industry, that's for sure. Okay, do we want to move on applications?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, we got some key applications in HVAC that we focus on, right? And we could probably bucketize them in three main applications: fans, pumps, and compressors. And we have fan, pumps, and compressors in a multitude of different applications, chillers, cooling towers, obvious air handling units, circulation pumps for chilled water, condensing water, laboratory exhaust fans, fan array solutions, and data centers, which have been exploding in the marketplace. We've got crawl units, we got CDUs, we got, you name it. There's all kinds of things that are popping up there these days, and there's so much need out there that we're doing our best to support all of these customer types, and it's all kind of blending together, and it's kind of an exciting time right now. We're seeing a lot of interesting and high volume requests and things like that. So it's kind of been a fun time here.
Yeah, I was thinking this morning, I started in 97, and I think drives were just starting to be used in commercial HVAC. Now, back then, they were huge, and they were very expensive, and everything had to have a bypass because of the reliability questions. Now, that's all changed today. They're extremely reliable. They're a lot smaller. They're a lot less expensive. But back in the day, it was real rare to have a VFD. Now it's like almost we rep Aon and other, the operating companies that Air Control Concepts owns, a lot of them rep Aon. And every time I open a unit, there's 3 or 4 VFDs in there. One for the compressor sometimes, if it's not a digital compressor, one for the condenser fan motors, a supply fan, if there's an exhaust fan. So it's just moving in that direction, which I think is a really good thing. I'm all about keeping things simple, like from the engineering mindset and mechanical mindset, like the simpler, the better. Like when I bought my truck, I wanted the simplest, one where you could go in there and hose it down because it's got like plastic floor, rubber mat floors. It doesn't even have rugs in it. But for this kind of thing, like it's such a benefit to have the VFDs. Anyway, so I was just throwing that in there about historically how we've come along the last 25, 30 years. So.
Yeah, and and I'll say fan arrays have been a big part of that growth, because there's so many ways that you can put together a fan array, right? You can have one drive with one fan, you can have one drive for multiple fans, there's all kinds of, I'll say, different technologies in its place to kind of go back and forth. You got ECMs and you got motors and drives. There's just a lot of different technologies that you can come to bear on all these applications. And at the core of it, you need to vary the speed. And
what's the mindset of ECM versus drives? Is that a competitor of a drive? Do you view that as a competition? And then I'm sure you have your pros and cons, and the ECM guy's going to say this, this, and this. Or how do you look at it from a VFD manufacturer standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that there can be some give and take there in the application. I always I'll say I'm biased, right? Because I always want to see a drive with an induction motor or some kind of high performance motor that will provide a low harmonic solution or a reduced harmonic solution. An induction motor makes it easy to replace in the field versus an ECM package. So there's a lot of pros and cons between all the solutions. But that said, ultimately it depends on what the customer's needs are, right? So if you want to maintain a high static pressure, you might want to consider using a drive with an induction motor that you can overspeed or get up to a certain pressure as you need it to be. But if you're not needing that, and it's a much smaller application and it's maybe simpler, maybe you don't need that level, but there's pros and cons on all of that.
Yeah. And we've done a couple hundred of these shows now. We usually get to this kind of part of the conversation, and there's engineering trade-offs to everything. There's no perfect solution. And if you're out there and you're listening to this, you're a consulting engineer or contractor, you've been around a while, the guy who's coming and saying, this is the best fit for every application. That's all he's got to sell, right? So, be wary of that, because there are pros and cons to all of it. That's for sure. Let's see here. We talked about applications, fans, pumps, compressors. Anything more on that? Or do we want to move on to the next section?
I guess maybe for pump solutions, one of the things that, we're seeing a lot of is maybe a move to larger powers than smaller powers. I thought that's something interesting. And I think it has to do with more facilities maybe moving into central utility plant type delivery models for their coolings.
You mean you're shipping more big drives than you used to? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
There seems to be more bigger drives being requested, and I think that might have to do with more coolant, cooling flows required in the system. So that's sort of an interesting trend. And ABB is we've got a great portfolio that helps maintain a good flow of your process. And we spent a lot of times developing PID tuning algorithms and multi-pump control systems. So that's those types of tools that we build in our standard product help give our customers that advantage.
Yeah, when you said bigger VFDs, data centers popped in my head. So it's going to be a big part of your business right now, right?
Yeah. It's growing. Yeah, it's a growing part of our business. Yeah.
Does harmonics play? So I guess this probably falls into VFD 101, how they work. And I just going to say this: I've been in the industry for 29 years. I sat through 450 million VFD presentations. I know they change the speed of the fan. I still don't know what goes on inside that thing. Like you can show me all you want, all the graphs you want. It changes its single phase and it puts it back to 3-phase and it does this and the frequency and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, whatever.
So let's step into the VFD 101. I think that's a great segue. And I'll keep it. I'm not going to go super geeky on you. So I could drive geek out for a while.
You can geek out all you want, but I'll just be thinking of, what am I having for dinner? What's going on today? The same thing I do in all these prezos. I was going to actually study it up so I could look smart. Like I can impress my audience about it, but I'm like, I'm 54 now, so I don't care about that. So, so VFDs 101, let's have it. Maybe someone smarter than me's listening.
So we basically have two different types of drive. We have a standard drive, which is sort of your everyday 6-pulse drive, and we have our ultra low harmonic drive. So maybe let's talk about the standard drive first, the 58001 product. And the way that a VFD works is it's got a diode front end, right? So what we're doing is we're converting AC, filling up a bucket of DC voltage, and then converting it out to a sine wave that will operate the motor by varying the volts per hertz model. Right?
Got it.
So
single. So I said single phase, 3-phase is single, but it's actually AC to DC. I got that wrong.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. It's AC to DC.
Got it.
So what we're doing is we're converting that AC to DC, and the way that we do it is and I'm using this term to kind of, so we go back to when we talk about ULH, is we gulp current off the line. So as we're gulping current off the line, filling up that DC voltage bucket to send out to control the speed of a motor, we're doing that really fast, and we're controlling this waveform using pulse width modulation. So we're adjusting the width within a new sine wave to create this facsimile of a pure sine wave. So as we're doing that, then we're varying the speed and controlling the motor quite accurately. But now if we consider the ultra low harmonic drive, instead of gulping current off the line like a standard drive, we're sipping current off the line. I like to tell we have this harmonic demonstrator, and I like to tell a little story when I'm in front of it, explaining harmonics. Harmonics is sort of hard and nebulous to because you can't really touch it, feel it, taste it. It exists in mathematical, analyses. And
harmonics are bad.
Yeah, harmonics.
Or your
harmonics. Yeah,
your
harmonics are basically
system.
Is really you could categorize it as pollution on the electrical grid.
I love it. Okay.
So when you have this pollution on the electrical grid, what it does is it creates eddy currents in things that cause it causes heat rejection on cables and you get extra losses. You gotta, then you gotta plan for the heat losses, and you gotta change your
could it
HVAC
affect
system.
other devices connected to the grid, an MRI machine, computers,
Yeah,
the data
absolutely.
center? So that's
Yeah,
where it's really a big deal in like hospitals, data centers, stuff like that.
Yeah, hospitals, data centers, universities,
Mhm.
anything that's using sort of high-tech equipment,
Got
they
it.
would prefer to use the low harmonic solution. So, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, we have a hobby farm. We used to have horses. My daughter would ride horses. So she would take the horses out in the pasture and ride them around. And, when she was all done riding, they'd be thirsty, right? So she'd fill up their drinking trough, and the horse would stick his head in the water, and the splashing and the waves and ripples and everything. All that is wasted water, because he's not consuming it. That's
Right.
harmonics. So it's the waste electricity that you're not really using for any good.
And the
Now,
drive can potentially cause that, or that's already on the grid?
all drives create it, and anything
I
with
see. Okay.
anything with a switch mode power supply create it. So, anything that has a power supply, an AC to DC conversion,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's an EV charger, a VFD, your printer, all that kind of stuff.
I see.
Your lights, your low voltage lights, everything in a commercial building pretty much creates harmonics.
Got it.
Now, what the ultra low harmonic does is it essentially gives the horse a straw. So he just consumes the electricity that he needs. The drive sips current off the line, so that as we're filling up that bucket of DC voltage for the output to control that motor, right? We're, instead of gulping it all the time, we're just, through the entire sine wave, we're just sipping enough current to keep that DC voltage at a stable level, so that it never falls too low and causes a disruption in the motor output.
And that's a harmonic filter, I believe you call it, is a separate piece.
No, actually,
No?
it's a drive designed for the purpose.
Oh, it's in the drive.
It's in a drive. There's
Did
no
they used to be separate?
Yeah, I mean, so in the olden days, we'd use
Yeah,
an active filter or a passive harmonic
Got it.
filter, right? So, but with the ultra low harmonic drive,
It's all
everything
built in.
it's all built in. There's no extra
Got it.
filtering. We actually don't create the harmonics because of that sipping technology, the low
Got it.
harmonic sucking the current off the AC line in a manner that doesn't cause these gulping periods.
Oh,
where
so
we
it's
create
not necessarily a filter. It's just it's just a different way to do it, so you don't create the
Yes.
harmonic. I got it. I see.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I'm
yeah.
learning a lot today. That's good. That's good info.
So that's an exciting product for us. Actually,
Mhm.
when I started with ABB, I launched that 580 platform ultra low harmonic product here in the US. It was pretty fun. And this is our fourth generation, our fourth version of this product. So this is not new for ABB. We've been doing this a really long time, but now
Mhm.
we've been able to package it in a manner that makes it easy for our HVAC community to, if you need a 6-pulse drive, it looks the same. If you need an ultra low harmonic drive, it looks the same. It works with the bypass. It works with redundance. It works with everything else. And now it's all one common platform.
Love it. All right. So let's see here. We talked about the benefits. We talked a little bit about applications. I think we did a good VFD 101.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. No, I think so. I think just maybe briefly want to get into the affinity law a little bit more. And kind of the driving reason why variable
Sure.
torque loads benefit
it.
so much. So if you can imagine, you have your speed from 0 to 100%, right? And we talked about it that,
Mhm.
Torque is the square of the speed, but power is the cube of the speed. So if we reduce the flow by 50%, and that we're only using 12.5% of that.
12.5.
Yeah.
I
So-
just did
Mhm.
a video on that exact scenario,
Okay.
reducing it
Yeah.
by half and showing it was 12.5% using the fan law. It's
Yeah.
funny you had those same numbers, but
Yeah. So the affinity law really helps us in controlling the process and delivering those savings. And because it's the affinity law, it's not like it's the ABB law, right? It's everybody's got access to
That's
the
right,
same
right.
affinity law. So we're just utilizing it in a manner that maximizes customer savings.
it would be great if I had a demo unit in this studio here, and if I knew somebody who would get me a demo unit, that would. Do you know anybody who might have one of those?
Yeah, I think I know somebody who might have one of those. So we'll make sure we'll get you one. And
okay, wait. Let's make sure the audience heard that. I'm getting an ABB demo. I'm not putting you on the spot here to get me one, but I honestly though, I think it would be a great teaching tool. That would be so much fun to have here. So
yeah, and just maybe a shout out to our ABB training department. They've created a YouTube page that hosts a ton of really great technical information. There's a large portion. It serves all of our markets, all of our vertical markets. Industrial, HVAC, water, wastewater, but there's a ton of HVAC content on there, and I would encourage people to go to that.
So, is it the standard ABB Drive YouTube channel? Do you know offhand?
It's called ABB Training. ABB Training, I think, is the name of the YouTube page.
Okay. You know what? If you're listening to this, I'll look it up and I'll put it in the video description in the show notes so they can find it, because we're all about education here. So anything we could provide, that's
there's trainings on BACnet, how to set up the drive, self-paced labs on how to use a VFD. So there's a ton of great training things on there for everybody to use.
Excellent. We'll put that in the show notes there. Okay. So do we want to move to ABB value proposition? Is Peter going to talk here? What's he just like eye candy here? What's he doing? What's going on?
Yeah, I'd love to talk through that, Tony. I think I just wanted to highlight a couple different things as far as kind of what sets us apart against our competition and how we engage and provide value to customers. So I think just kind of at a high level, we at ABB, we really have a high level of domain expertise. We have segment-specific offerings, like Louis kind of already mentioned, as well as tailored go-to-market approaches for different segments. So, just an example of that within, the HVAC space and, the product line that Louis owns with the ACH, which is our HVAC-specific products. They have, different parameter sets. They're optimized for HVAC loads to, conserve energy. They have more, HVAC friendly COM modules standard like BACnet, whereas some of our other product families don't have that as standard. You have to, purchase separate modules for that. As we were just talking through the low harmonic variants, where you're able to, pull some of the pollution off the grid and things like that, are specific on our 580 line to the HVAC product, and then just a lot of the other kind of firmware parameters are designed to meet certain building codes and refrigerant safety standards. So that's one of the things that really I think sets our portfolio apart. Kind of within that same vein, our application expertise within the different domains, I think specific to our HVAC, our application engineering team is pretty world class. They're a really great group of people who are incredibly knowledgeable with HVAC applications. They are able to really deep dive into a lot of really complex scenarios and help our HVAC customers troubleshoot. I think kind of outside of that, we really focus a lot as a business on our customer experience and ease of use. I think the way that we've developed our products is particularly friendly within the HVAC industry for technicians and people who need to be working on and servicing, whether it's a rooftop unit or chiller. Our ability to commission and program our drives without needing to sit there, with the user manual, because our interface is really intuitive. We also have a lot of really great digital connectivity tools like Mobile Connect. So just some of the things like that really help kind of our user friendliness, and then also from a standpoint of just the reliability and the quality of our products, I would say is world class. And we have, as we talked about kind of before the show started, this new factory that we're sitting in. It's a smart factory. It's a factory of the future. So our value chain really helps to provide a lot of value from the end to end for the customer. And we also have for our global HVAC accounts, we have a region for region footprint and supply base, which helps to really provide a lot of resilience, especially with a lot of things that have been happening over the last 5 years with supply chain shortages and things like that. So there's a lot of things that I think we bring to the table as an organization that set us apart, and the way that we kind of help to drive that value, from ABB down through, to the end user, is we have a multi-channel market strategy, which allows us to have kind of maximum market coverage. And so we have our HVAC channel, and then we also have our OEM team, which is what I'm a part of. And really on the channel side, I think they're really important to talk about here because they really do provide superior value to our end users. And I think our channel partners, both here domestically, and that's obviously what we're focusing on, but really globally as well, our our channel partners really, I think, have helped ABB to become the class leading VFD supplier, both domestically and globally. We have a really great group of partners across the United States, and they really do, you know, function as market leaders in the HVAC equipment business. So these are our distribution partners who have embedded ABB support with dedicated sales, service, training, warehouse staff, and things like that. And they focus on both demand creation and life cycle support for our customers, so that they're able to have a lot of end user influence. They are able to help with the design, like build and spec process. They'll provide service contracts. Late configuration and life cycle planning, and then they also kind of help with the front end on customer care, and um, a lot of what they do to provide, I would say, kind of um, superior applied solutions to the building owners and designers, is just kind of through that local support where they have local inventory. They can help execute on warranty needs, and like I mentioned before, their application and spec support that they provide is really unparalleled within the industry. And they additionally will have specific ABB trained and certified specialists within the organizations, along with HVAC equipment engineers as well. And so the tools that they're able to employ really help to provide a lot of value um, to our customers. And so they're able to access project-based submittal generators. They can provide VFD guide specs and things like that. And like I said, they're really kind of the group that allowed ABB to be in the market leading position that we're in today. So we're certainly very grateful for all of our value channel partners across the country.
Well, we're grateful for you all too, and we love working with companies who take all that serious, because the support is very, very important, especially for something like a VFD, because the easier it is, the less you got to pull out the 640,000 page VFD manual and start flipping through that. That's not a crack at ABB. They're just, the manuals are long because they do a lot. So, they need to be long for that reason. But yeah, having it done on the panel is really nice. So, and Peter, that's a beautiful new factory behind you. And you said New Berlin, Wisconsin, I believe. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. New Berlin, Wisconsin, about 20 miles west of downtown Milwaukee. So
nice.
It's on the west side, and we're looking forward to the ability it's going to grant us to ramp up capacity and further meet the needs of our channel partners and end users, and also with our OEMs, we're working on growing that business pretty aggressively, which is exciting given that's kind of the space that I'm in. We've developed a lot of different things kind of over the last several years to better support the OEM segment. Like I kind of mentioned earlier in the podcast, we've got a pretty broad variety of OEMs in the HVAC industry that we support. Some are local, some are global, and in this factory, along with some of the other factories that we have around the globe, and the R&D and engineering centers, allow us to really be a one-stop shop for a lot of those customers, which is exciting. Just because we have that global network, and we have a global portfolio, and a lot of our global customers like to have global designs, whether it's for a chiller or air handling, things like that. We can offer them the same drive solution in the United States that we do in France, or that we do in China or India. And so that's I think a really good thing that we're able to do. And then other things that we kind of do with our OEMs are, we have a team that is dedicated to customizing things like firmware. We can customize the hardware as well. So we can do custom branding for our OEMs and things like that. So I think we've got a really good team here to support the OEMs, and also hopefully we can work towards the continued success with our channel partners. So we're looking forward to the next year and fully settling into the new factory. I think it's going to be a good ride for everyone.
Good stuff. Well, I think we did some good here. I think our mission here is to educate the HVAC community, educate and empower the HVAC community. So I think we did a good job. So thank you both guys for being here. Peter and Louis, any final words?
Just that we'll call you up for a visit when we're at full tilt here, and we'll enjoy maybe a little time with you and a visit here with maybe a local channel partner that you might be aware of. So
good. That would be great. That would be fantastic. I'll take you up on that. So Louis and Peter, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, this is the end of our show today. Thank you so much for listening to HVAC TV. I'm Tony Mormino. If you are listening to this on the audio version, please come check out our YouTube channel, which is also called HVAC TV. And thank you so much. We appreciate your support.